Hi there YouTube, this is Rob, welcome to the Orchid Man channel. So, this episode I wanted to talk about something that was a long time coming, because a lot of people have been asking me about it, a lot of mention in the Facebook groups. I thought I'm just going to make a full-blown episode just to talk what I know, just to fill the topic, and straighten up some plot problems that you might have seen online or something like that. So, today I wanted to talk about the exciting world of pebbles. Yes, you probably have guessed, it's semi-hydroponics, and if you haven't guessed, just watch some videos of otters rolling pebbles. Anyway, first of all, I wanted to talk about semi-hydroponics because I did have a lot of friends, a lot of people just asking me, what is those little things you have in the pots, how you're growing this, is it better, is it worse, what's the difference in between growing in the normal media, and also because I've seen a lot of videos online with people who talk about growing them, their plants, semi-hydroponics, and there is a lot of very mixed information coming out those videos and coming from those peoples, and I find it very irritating that people who have a couple of hundred or thousand viewers and they talk absolute rubbish sometimes and they claim to be experts in growing their plants. However, their videos and their knowledge keeps showing a lot of very convenient gaps in the information they provide, especially if it's like negative opinions or very judgmental videos on how they don't like semi-hydroponics because XYZ, and sometimes they basically talk about problems they've encountered, but they never say about super simple solutions to those problems. They kind of just randomly decide that they're completely irrelevant in this situation just because it's their opinion. So anyway, I decided I'm gonna talk about this from my perspective. So let's get started. First things first, this is very important, so do not skip this part. Please remember that although I have happily grown my plants in semi-hydroponics with really good amount of success, I do not claim I am an expert in any way, that I know everything and the way I grow is the best. Woohoo! No. I learn from others the hard way, the easy way, and I learn by trial and error. And yes, I will say it out loud, I killed plants in semi-hydroponics by lack of knowledge or by experiment. It is a topic that a lot of YouTubers never will say, like, oh, I never killed plants. Yes, you did kill plants, you just don't want to say it because you think that if you kill the plant doing an experiment, people will think less of you. No, they don't. So, I have a script for this because it's going to be such a long episode. Let's start. What is semi-hydroponics? Semi-hydroponics is a well-known method of growing all types of plants, not just orchids, because a lot of plants are being grown in semi-hydroponics. I personally grow dahlias in semi-hydroponics, except orchids, and my dahlias that I started in semi-hydroponics and then repotted outside have, at least 4 weeks grown faster than the other plants that you would normally start in a greenhouse. Anyway, so semi-hydroponics initially has been started and kind of like propagated around the US by a very, very clever man called Ray, whose surname I can't never find and remember. And you can actually find him online if you go to Facebook and you go to growing orchids in semi-hydroponics. He is there, and he is an absolute wealth of knowledge. He's a wonderful bloke who is extremely helpful, and he is also always says he's learning, he's adjusting his ways of growing, and he always keeps saying, like, the way I grow my plants, I will be learning every single day of my life, because that's how growing looks like. So anyway, going back to the topic of what is semi-hydroponics, so it's basically the mentality of growing your plants, say an example orchids, with the idea that the medium in which the plants are grown is not necessary for healthy growth and propagation of the plants. So basically this is the idea of that the medium itself is only there to hold the plant and the roots in place, allowing it to spread, and all of the nutrients, the salt, the minerals are basically being provided with minimal amount either from the medium or from the water or any types of a liquid containing the minerals, which is, in full honesty, it's a brilliant idea because it saves a lot of problems, a lot of hassle. The other idea of semi-hydroponics is basically to cut costs, remove pests and any other problems with diseases that can be the plants get from the medium that's being grown on, and any pests like fungus gnats, mealy bugs, any other stuff that basically can come with your media. And also the idea is to cut costs because you can grow your plants in semi-hydroponics in any types of pots, and the media itself, it is reusable. So basically every year or every 2 years you can unpot your plants, take the media, wash it in hot water, you can boil it or you can put it in a oven just to bake it, just to make sure you kill any bacteria or something like that, and just reuse it and keep reusing it till infinity, or at least the media breaks down to the point that it's just basically you have crushed dust. However, this is the simple idea of semi-hydroponics. Obviously you have different ways you can do it. Some people do it by putting pots with drainage inside bigger pots and then just creating this kind of reservoir, which is the main idea of in semi-hydroponics, that your pots or the containers, or how you create your own setup, the plant will always have this type of dry media, which is the baked clay pebbles, which are also you can find them as aqua clay pebbles. Some people call it leca, but leca can come in different various forms, and it's not necessarily exactly the same thing. So usually, you can find your supplies for aquaponics or hydroponics, and you should have it. So when you have the container usually will be a pot, which will be set up in a way that will have a reservoir of water. So basically, as I can show you here, going through the little growing kit, those are the pebbles. Those are the little clay balls. They look like this. You can buy them really cheap on Amazon, you can buy them on eBay. The way I grow my orchids, and I'm going to show you, because if you go online and you do your search because you want to start doing semi-hydroponics, actually finding information how to drill the holes in the pot and how big the reservoir should be there, it is so hard to find anything relevant and anything good that is just absurd that in 2019 it is actually so hard to find someone who put enough effort to actually this method is really simple. It is not rocket science. You just buy some pebbles, know how to drill the holes, and the rest comes naturally. Just nobody never took care, what to do, and it's just sometimes just really absurd. So, as you can see, I use plastic pots. The idea of semi-hydroponics is to cut your costs, so you can use any type of containers. So I use jugs like this, which if you live in the UK you can buy from Wilko for 35p. They are very comfortable. You can use them with a handle, so it makes it 10 times easier to water. Also they have the bit here, so it's easier to drain the water. You can also cut the handle, and because this is the recyclable plastic that basically is food approved, it is softer, so it's easier to drill holes in them. You can use anything like ice cream containers, anything like old soup containers, anything. Just make sure the container is big enough for what you actually need. One thing that I'm gonna say, and you've probably seen it a lot, people are potting their orchids in glass and drilling holes in them and claiming this is the perfect way to grow orchids in semi-hydroponics. Well, from my perspective, it's kind of contradicting the idea, because it's supposed to be about cutting costs and creating a good environment for orchids. So glass is not something that cuts costs. If you live in Europe, like I do, and a lot of my viewers probably do too, you know that buying glass vase or whatever containers, it is not cheap. It does not cut costs. Nobody at home does have a special drill end to drill holes in a glass container just to make semi-hydroponics. So that idea for me is literally blowing my mind, because A, it is not comfortable anyway. I would be terrified that this bloody container will break, because glass is brittle and things happen, and also the fact that you have clay pebbles, which are kind of stones inside of glass, pressing on the glass may cause cracks. Drilling holes in glass anyway weakens its structure. However, the problem you get, glass itself in nature is not a good container to hold plants, especially in semi-hydroponics. Why? Because growing plants in semi-hydroponics, you have this reservoir. So let's go into the reservoir a bit first, and I'll continue with the pods. So as you can see here, you have those holes. The idea is that you should have around 4 centimeters, which is 1/4 of an inch, if I'm not mistaken. Probably I am mistaken. Oh no, it's 1¼ of an inch from the bottom of the pot, and you drill holes. Some people say you should only have 2 holes on one side, that's enough. I prefer to have holes all around it, so basically 2 here, 2 here, just like the compass, because it provides better drainage. Why? Because when you have pebbles, those pebbles can move around, and they will move around, and they can block the holes. So, you know, you don't want to have a situation like that. And this should provide enough reservoir for your plant. You can do it a tiny bit higher, because obviously I never done my holes in the pots with a ruler. So some of them are a tiny bit higher, some a tiny bit lower, but I usually try to aim for that 4 or 5 centimeters, and that's it. And then you have a perfect balance in them, especially with those pots. They're tall enough, they're like between 13 centimeters diameter, so they're perfectly fine. And there it's easy to water them. It's the same thing if you're doing in other pods, which are like the bigger plastic containers. Make sure you have this kind of drainage, and then you just need to have this bit here to keep it from leaking, because the water will, especially when you water it, the water can still move and leak a bit. If you're going to do the other method, where basically you put a pot and another pot, you still do it the same way, but then you put this pot in a larger pot that actually contains water. So it's a good idea that you have 2 clear pots, so that you can actually see the level of your water. And that's how it is. It's simple as that. Now, going back to the material the pots are made of, I've never seen anyone grow anything in semi-hydroponics in anything than either plastic or glass. Why I said glass is bad? Glass is really bad because of the heat exchange. For orchids growing in semi-hydroponics, the problem is that the temperature, if you have fresh water in it, the temperature of the water inside of the pot is going to be always between 1 and 2 Celsius lower than surrounding temperature of the air. In glass, this is going to be even lower. Why? Because glass loses heat or gains heat extremely quickly. So if it's summer, imagine that it's really warm outside, the glass is going to transfer that heat inside of the pot way quicker, which is going to increase the water evaporation even faster, especially if, like in the afternoon or in the mornings, your orchid is standing on the windowsill, it starts getting sun. So in the morning it's not that bad, in the afternoon it's really hot, and the sun is quite hot. So it can get bad to the point that if you have Phalaenopsis growing in your pot, the roots will always go to the side, so the glass is going to work like a magnifying glass, and you basically grill your plant. Second of all, as I said, the heat transfusion through the glass, you will boil your plant alive with the water, because the water will evaporate extremely quickly. B, the temperature of the water can go really, really warm because it's a small, such a small area that the water will, if it's really hot, it can even start kind of boiling in there. So you boil your plant alive, which is not the idea. Plastic, on the other hand, like this kind of pots, it's not a clear plastic, it is a semi-transparent plastic, and if it's wet inside, obviously you can see through it. But obviously it is like this kind of milky material, so you won't be able to see all of it, so your plants are going to be safe. And also plastic itself doesn't gain or lose heat that fast, so you're safe there. Now, other thing, when it comes to semi-hydroponics, for everyone that lives in Europe, I don't really know about any, you're growing in USA, you have people there, you can tell you better. If you're living like myself in Northern Europe, England, and any country like Northern France, Northern Germany, Northern Poland, Sweden, Denmark, all of the countries that have, you can get really hot summers but freezing cold winters, and you live in a house, you don't have a greenhouse. What are you gonna do? So you're gonna basically pot your plants in summer, see them wonderfully develop, wonderfully bloom, and get amazing results in semi-hydroponics. And then autumn comes and suddenly you start losing your plants. Well, I had that experience. I went through this. This is an experience I was really surprised, because I thought semi-hydroponics is going to be so easy. It's just going to be like putting the plant in a pot with some pebbles, add water, that's it, success. Well, it's not that easy. First of all, and this is something a lot of YouTubers never address when they talk about their fabulous, fancy, whatever semi-hydroponic experiments. Heating mats for orchids, if you live in Northern Hemisphere and you're going to have a cold winter, autumn, and the temperatures outside are going to start dropping, you need a heating mat. You need a heating mat, and obviously it's good to have LED lights to keep some extra light for your plants. Why you need a heating mat? Because if winter comes, the temperature is going to be lower, the temperature in your house is going to be lower. There are people who keep the temperature in the house for around 22 degrees. However, you need to remember that your orchids usually stand on the windowsill, and because it's close to the window, the temperature on the windowsill, it is slightly lower than the temperature that we can personally feel as humans. So say your house temperature is 20, so then the temperature on the windowsill is going to be 18, maybe 19. So then the temperature in the pot is going to be around 17, 16 degrees. And then imagine night comes in and nobody has a heating radiator running all through the night. So you always remember the times like you come down to the house and the house is absolutely freezing in the morning. So, well, hello, imagine now your orchids. You have your orchids that suddenly have, I don't know, there was maybe 14 degrees out in your living room, and you have plants that will have even colder. So, I don't know, 11, 12 degrees. That is a killer for your orchid roots, because if you have a warm or intermediate growing fowl, it will not survive. And you will not notice that because it will start very quickly rotting from underside, and you won't notice till it's dead. I had that. I had a beautiful Phalaenopsis, the cross between Bellina and Samara, and it was absolutely lovely. And autumn came and I didn't notice, and that was a warm growing one, and it just died. And it didn't die from the top, it died from the bottom, because all of the roots rotted because of the cold temperatures, and all the leaf fell off. So this is the idea. If you're living in an area that your autumn and your winter is going to be cold, and you have a growing area, invest in a heating mat. It is not expensive. In UK you can buy it for £6 to £8. You can buy it on eBay. You can buy it in shops that sell stuff for lizards, turtles, anything, for terrariums. And just put your plants on it. The idea is that in winter, even if you heat up your house, you will have the underside heating for those plants, which basically will provide the extra warmth for your plants. Because although you provide the heating, which kind of will dry out the air, it will not constantly warm up the pot, because people do not put heating for 6-7 hours. You put up your heating for an hour, 2 hours, and that is way not enough to heat up the pot itself and the pebbles and the water inside the pot and maintain this temperature for a longer time. So if you have a heating mat which usually warms up to around 32 to 34 degrees, it will actually take time to warm up the pebbles and the water inside the pot, and then your plant will do better. And it also really helps, this kind of mat, it helps through winter and spring to actually give your plants this extra kick and like a wake-up call to grow. Because, you know, in full honesty, orchids that actually are grown on a heating mat perform way much better. The roots grow bigger, they grow thicker, because they are going down to warmer water, and it actually helps them because there's a lot of chemistry stuff there, but warmer water actually helps the roots themselves to get more of the stuff, the good stuff from the nutrient solution they have in there. So that's this point about pots and watering. When it comes to watering, everyone says, oh yeah, semi-hydroponics, you won't have to worry about watering. Well, yes and no. The problem with semi-hydroponics is, depending on which setup you've provided, like mine setups, which is the only pot with the saucer, if it's really warm outside, I don't have the heating mat running, but the temperatures outside will actually provide a lot of evaporation for the water from the pot, and then you have to remember that you will probably have to top the water a bit in the middle of the week. And also you need to remember there's this one tricky thing. In summer, the pebbles, or especially the top layer of the pebbles, will dry out very quickly. Therefore, if you have a problem, and a lot of people will say, oh, I've been growing my plants in semi-hydroponics and I have problems, the top roots, they die, they touch the pebbles and they die. Well, the problem is that baked clay, if it's really hot and really dry, it actually has a tendency of sucking out the moisture from the surrounding instead of providing like it normally would if it's really wet. So you need to be careful. If it's really hot, always make sure you spray the top layer of your pebbles and the roots, just to make sure they don't die, because the pebbles themselves are, I don't know, too hot, too dry, and they actually start sucking up the moisture from your plant, which is, you know, it will kill the root. And a lot of people are like, oh, semi-hydroponics kill my plant. Whenever they touch the root, they get black. Well, like, did you do some experiments? Did you read about it? Well, no, you didn't. You just make, you know, conclusions without any knowledge, without even asking. And also the fertilizing solution. There is a bit of mixed opinion here, because a lot of people say like, oh, you should only use quarter strength fertilizer. You should only do that. Well, that's not true, and if someone says you should, never listen to them until you actually do your own research, because the worst thing you can come across is those semi-professional expert orchid growers who they think they know better because, you know, I've grown orchids so I know. That's not true. I've been growing all of my orchids in semi-hydroponics, and I've been using normal strength fertilizer, and I never had rod burn. I never had any problems. The thing is, you need to be careful, because if you have the fertilizer, you need to make sure you flush it always. Especially in hot weather, if you add water, you should in the middle of the week flush it a bit more. And rinse, especially, like, it's a good practice that not to only top the water, but actually take the pot itself into the shower, into the sink, and actually rinse through the whole pot so that all of the pebbles get wet, not just the top layer. Oh my god, I've been talking so much. We've been talking about pots, fertilizer, temperatures. Yes, temperatures are extremely important. It is good to remember that semi-hydroponics does not work for everyone. It does not work for all orchids, which is absolute. It is not true. If you hear someone say like, oh, you can grow everything in semi-hydroponics. No, it's not true. I tried growing oncidiums and I tried growing odontoglossums, and it just doesn't work, because if the temperatures outside are warm, obviously oncidiums don't like it, they start suffering. And the problem is, if it's too cold, their roots start dying out in the cold water in the semi-hydroponic. So unless it's a very complex Cambria hybrid, which is like Colmanar or something, they will not adjust and they will suffer. So in conclusion, semi-hydroponics, very quick conclusion, you can grow most type of orchids in semi-hydroponics. If you're living in Northern Hemisphere, always ensure that if you have your pebbles, which is basically these again, plastic pots, best solution, glass pots, a big no-no, it's a waste of money, you won't have the results you want, especially because you need to invest in a heating mat, which you're going to be using in autumn, winter, beginning of spring, till actually the temperatures outside are good enough so the temperature in your house doesn't drop below 18 degrees. Don't tell me it's not, because I know it's going to drop, especially you don't put the heating all the time. If you do, you have loads of money. Give me some, really. Anyway, best orchids to grow, especially for trial, if you want to start. Phalaenopsis, if you have a very complex Phalaenopsis, which is a very good, big, established plant, you can try it in a pot. And this one should actually survive without any heating on a warm windowsill. When I'm saying warm windowsill in a bedroom, it's a bedroom that you use all the time, and the temperature in there doesn't go below 18 degrees. I have one Phalaenopsis like that. It hasn't been using the comforts of the heating mat, only because it's so huge and it has so much roots, and it's sitting on a very sunny and warm windowsill that even in winter it constantly has the warmth in there, because it's very sunny windowsill, so the temperatures always stay warm. So a lot of people will probably have something like that. Fertilizer, I use what is it called, the Orchid Grow Technology ones, and I use that every other week. Sometimes I add Epsom salts just to make sure the plants have extra salt. I haven't been using kelp. A lot of people say, oh, you should be using kelp. I quite want to try it, but then, I don't want to create like some weird, juicy vodka fertilizer mixture for my plants that they're going to suffer from. Also, I use an extra bottle of spray that I spray the top surface of the pebbles, because as I said, if the pebbles get too dry, they will actually start sucking moisture out of your roots and your surrounding, instead of providing the moisture by the water movement. And also, it's a good idea to have LED lights, because if you have like a dark windowsill, it will just provide your plant extra, light. But that's not another requirement in semi-hydroponics. So going back to the pluses, no pests. You will not have fungus gnats in them. The only problem you might encounter is algae, because algae will start growing in your pots, and that's not like a bad thing. Algae is not a horrible thing for your orchids, unless you have so much of it that's basically the two are fighting over the resources. However, the good thing with semi-hydroponics is, like, in spring you can just unpot your plant, check if there's any dead roots, clean the algae, clean the pebbles, and plant the plant again. It's not like with bark or anything that you have to bin everything just to restart from it again. One more thing, temperatures. As I said, make sure your plant always has a plus temperature, so the temperature in the pot never goes below 16-17 degrees, because it will kill your plant. Anything else, that's just easy peasy. If you have problems or something new is happening to you or you don't understand, that's just normal. I've been growing plants in semi-hydroponics, it's going to be almost 2 years. I did lose some plants, especially in the beginning when I didn't have the heating mat, because I didn't know. All summer, all spring, it was wonderful. I never seen my plants produce this much roots. And then winter came and they just literally started dropping like flies. I did lose some really beautiful Phalaenopsis, but in the same time, I've had some beautiful Phalaenopsis grow, like you can see the Chaos Happy Eagle and Princess K Ulani in the background, and this is the sister one. I'm just going to show you how much new roots this one has just here. And you can grow, a lot of people say like, oh, Paphiopedilum and Pragmipedium are not good for semi-hydroponics. It is not true. When I moved to semi-hydroponics, I had 120 paths, and I moved every single one of them into semi-hydroponics, and they have been extremely happy in it. And so far, every single path I had twice the amount of growth, and the Pragmipediums love it and they go absolutely mental in it. The only thing is, like, if you have plants that are very complex hybrid between primary species, always make sure you read which parent has which recommendations, because if you have, like, I have a Epicattleya right now which is suffering greatly because I was very stupid and I didn't read properly on the parentage, and one of the parent, which is Cattleya harrisoniana, it prefers colder temperatures, and I had it on a heating mat, so this Epicattleya kind of lost all of its roots because it was too warm for them. So, you know, this is one of the things, like, you learn all the time. So semi-hydroponics itself is a base for your plants to grow, but all of the mistakes and everything you don't do or you do will not necessarily, you know, either make your experience good or bad. It's just basically the mistakes you do personally that can disrupt this experience, not the medium itself. Like, a lot of people will say, like, oh, my plants died, this went bad, blah blah blah, and you're like, you know what, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, and you blame it on the media. Don't blame it on the media, blame it on the way you've been growing them, because you haven't actually researched the problem and come out with solutions. Anyway, rant over. So this is my talk about semi-hydroponics. So sorry for a very boring image of my plants and just listening to my voice. Actually, I'm not sorry. I hope this video was helpful to you in any way. If you have questions, please do leave them in the comment section below, and subscribe to my channel. And I'm hoping that in the future I will be doing more videos about semi-hydroponics, and I can even do a how to pot a plant in semi-hydroponics video. So thank you very much again for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.